Just like our modern day computers, our minds too have EPROMs with pre-stored instructions that enables us to bootstrap and go on with our lives. These instructions are essential for living, but they become a problem when they somehow get corrupted. Imagine how a computer would behave if its EPROM is corrupted. It just crashes. That would also be our state if we have a faulty mental EPROM. Before we talk about how the practice of yoga helps in setting right a corrupted mental EPROM, let us face the fundamental question, namely, is your mental EPROM corrupted? Is your mental EPROM corrupted? Giving an analogy to our computers, I was talking about an EPROM that resides in our mind. Like the EPROM in a computer, this mental EPROM is also essential for the normal functioning of a living being. It contains instructions that are needed for our day-to-day functioning. What are those instructions? What do we need to maintain a normal life? Most basically, we need to eat good food. Every animal instinctively knows what to eat and how much to eat. Food that provides nutrition to our body is what we should be eating. Also, we should eat just sufficient to satiate our hunger. Any instinct-driven animal does just that. Just eating is not enough. We need to maintain a family, have a mate, have children, and so on, so that we continue to propagate our likes. If you are a male, you need to have a female who is capable of producing children and bring them up with all the care. If you are a female, you should look for a male who is capable of fathering your children and also providing protection to you as well as your progeny. These are the most basic instructions in the mental EPROM of any being. Just living and reproducing are not enough. You need to continue to live. For that, you need to have a desire to live. That is also another instruction in the mental EPROM. All these instructions are essential for us to exist. But what happens if these instructions get corrupted or are masked by faulty ones? Instead of eating good nutritious food to nourish our body, we become slaves to our taste buds and eat all kinds of junk food. The result is well known: health problems. Similarly, instead of having control over our eating habits, we consume a bit too much and fall prey to many diseases, obesity, diabetes, and whatnot. When we choose a mate, we look for superficial features like beauty and not the features that are conducive to procreation and upkeep of the progeny. Broad hips, big bosoms, tender body, and so on, which are supposed to be an indication of a right candidate for mothering our children, they become false notions of beauty. Similarly, muscular body, tall, hairy figure, which are otherwise needed for a good fatherly candidate, become notions of beauty in a male. The real purpose of these are overshadowed by superficial and misleading notions. These are the bugs that make our mental EPROM faulty. Not that eating some tasty food occasionally is completely bad, nor falling in love with someone. As long as we are mindful of the real purpose behind the instructions in our built-in EPROM and we are at control, things are fine. But more often than not, many of us totally forget the basic purpose. That is when the mental EPROM leads us astray. Patanjali calls such a condition as false knowledge or Avidya. Avidya is about mistaking wrong as right, bad as good, and so on. Patanjali says that this Avidya is the mother of all our problems. What are these problems? When we forget about the purpose of eating and go totally astray by indulging in bad food habits, we get into health problems. Similarly, when physical attraction is the only thing that draws us towards opposite sex, we get trapped into what Patanjali calls as raga or over attachment to someone. Over attachment leads to possessiveness, and we shudder even to think of anyone snatching our beloved from us. That leads to dvesha or hatred to the other person who attempts any such thing. Both these, raga as well as dvesha, make our lives miserable. It is not just possessiveness about opposite sex, but almost about anything in our lives, money, wealth, and so on. Why does all these things happen? That is because we identify ourselves with the body. It is the body for whose sake we get into raga, dvesha, and so on. And these raga, dvesha are once again generated due to false notions of taste, beauty, etc. Patanjali calls this wrong identification with the body as asmita. We should have known that we are not the body, but the souls. But we fall for the wrong association due to avidya. We think that our body is permanent, but it is not. Sooner or later it is going to perish, and whatever we amassed for its sake is not going to help us in any way. That's also part of avidya. Wrong association with the body makes us want to live forever, so that we can continue to enjoy the pleasures provided by the body. Patanjali calls it as abhinivesha. Even this has avidya as the root. So, avidya is the mother of all problems. Since we cannot live forever, we desire to take rebirth again and again and enter an endless trap of pleasure and pain. That is not going to help us in the long run. But that is what we are forced to because of our faulty EPROM. The ultimate aim of yoga, as per Patanjali, is to set right this faulty EPROM. That would make us live peacefully when we are alive and escape from the endless cycle of births and deaths when we finally die. Patanjali calls avidya, raga, dvesha, asmita, and abhinivesha as 5 troublesome activities of the mind or pancha kleshas. If you recall, in the very beginning, Patanjali defines yoga as restrainment of the activities of the mind, yogas chitta vritti nirodha. In these chitta vrittis, Patanjali talks about 5 normal and 5 difficult, pancha aklishta and pancha klishta. Yoga steps from 1 to 7 are meant to restrain the normal activities, and later stages of step 8, that is asamprajnata samadhi, are meant to neutralize even the klishta activities of the mind. That is when you set right your mental EPROM. Patanjali says that repeatedly going through asamprajnata samadhi rectifies some of the bugs that have crept into our mental EPROM over a period of time. This over a period of time could mean several past births. That can't be rectified in one go. It has to be done with repeated and purposeful efforts. Each time you enter asamprajnata samadhi, some of the bugs get eliminated. And when all bugs are eliminated, you are left with a clean EPROM. A clean EPROM also means giving up of clinging on to the body and the pleasures provided by it. As I said earlier, great masters with no desire to cling on to the body may still keep taking birth, since they desire to help others who are suffering because of faulty EPROM syndrome. What will happen if someone has no such desire to help others? Patanjali says that such a soul attains Kaivalya. Kaivalya is a state where the soul is completely free and all to itself without any entanglements which could disturb its ever blissful state. Patanjali believes in Sankhya model of the world of duality. In that model, there is nature and the souls. Coming together of them is bondage and separation is freedom. The purpose of yoga is to attain this state of eternal freedom. But Upanishads go even beyond this Sankhya model of the world. Upanishads talk of realities beyond this matter-soul duality. How do Upanishads view ultimate reality? We will see that in the next episode.